The human mind is a unique and fascinating vessel that reacts subjectively according to the external stimulation and context of each of us. When Arthur Miller wrote The Crucible, he was in part reacting to his own government's McCarthyistic approach in the social context of the early 1950s in the United States. The Crucible is also deeply personal and connects to Miller's own persecution. Within the play, he manages to not only illuminate his audience on the historical happenings to people within Salem, Massachusetts in 1692, and the horror of the crying out and the witch trials, but also through the commentary and the dialogue. Through characterization and suggestion, Miller alludes to the crying out of Senator Joe McCarthy against the communists and communism and the subsequent fear-mongering that occurred during the time of the writing of The Crucible. What Miller wants to promote through the dramatic structure of the play is how the human mind is unique and reacts to situations differently based on previous circumstances which shape an individual. Similarly, in A Star is Born by Bradley Cooper, the concept is based around scientific mythology. For one star to be born, another must flame out. A man who's seen it all in show business and who's been driven to addiction by its hollowness encounters a talented, refreshingly authentic woman and falls in love with her almost on sight, then introduces her to the business he's already conquered. The Crucible by Arthur Miller is an allegory that compares McCarthyism to the Salem witch trials. Miller's compositional intention in crafting this play is to draw attention to the relevance of the Salem witch trials to the McCarthyism era. Miller uses his experience of being arrested due to allegedly being a communist sympathizer to target the extremist views of both the government in the 1950s and the time of the trials to teach and show his audience that human experiences occur across cultures, times, and places, pointing to the universality of the human experience. In The Crucible, guilt is highlighted through the characters of Hale, Proctor, and Abigail. Despite being confident about any battle with the devil in the opening of the play, Hale's arrogance in the validity of the witch hunts diminishes as he comes to realize that they are based on accusations that have no proof, fueled by a group of girls who have their own agenda. At first, he allows himself to be duped by the accusations of the girls as it gives him an opportunity to show his expertise and intellect in matters of the invisible world. Proctor alludes to Hale's role in facilitating the growing hysteria in Act 2 when he refers to him as Pontius Pilate. Proctor says, "Pontius Pilate, God will not let you wash your hands of this." This biblical allusion initiates a change in Hale, where the responder begins to see a man who is weighed down by guilt. This is due to the role he played in condemning so many innocent people. The man who was an eager-eyed intellectual when he first introduced is by the end broken and weeping in frantic prayer. Thus, Miller explores how the human experience of guilt can result in self-hatred and loss of faith. In the same way, guilt is layered with the accusation that Salem is a paradise of the wicked. At the end of Act 3, Proctor builds a facade of guilt manifested in the devil's face by rebelling against the Puritan belief system. This extract establishes in the minds of the responder the guilt which all those in Salem share for standing by and not speaking out against the witch hunt, for fear that they too may be accused. Proctor laughs insanely as he says, "I hear the boot of Lucifer, I see his filthy face, for them that quail to bring men out of ignorance." The metaphor of Lucifer's boot blends auditory and visual imagery to construct a confronting image. Paired with this is the use of the word quail, which further emphasizes the fear which stops man from speaking the truth. Proctor begins laughing insanely, which communicates to the audience that he has lost his mind. As he laughs before he explains about seeing Lucifer, this shows the audience that he has broken away from conformity and challenges the government. As a result, he is then persecuted. In a similar way, Abigail manipulates the girls by making them conform to her lie for the court. Abigail's position, where everyone trusts her and never questions her, gives her a sense of power that she ultimately abuses, resulting in many innocent people's death. Guilt is a universal thought that manifests itself in different ways, which we see through characters such as Hale, Proctor, and Abigail, which leads to the human mind reacting subjectively according to the external stimulation and context of each of us. Manipulation and guilt as human experience is also targeted by Cooper in A Star is Born, through characterization of the producer and the manner in which he maneuvers his way between Allie and Jack within the narrative of the film. While guilt itself can be seen in many places, the director's ability to join both themes together using the producer as a pivot point enables the audience to easily identify a central external point for Ali and Jack's subjective responses to a single entity. For instance, in the Do You Know Who I Am scene, when we first meet the producer outside a concert where Ali has performed, he approaches her in the crowd with extreme confidence. The mise-en-scene frames Jack, Ali, and the producer, with the producer splitting and separating Jack from Ali within the scene. Positioning Jack symbolically and metaphorically to the background foreshadows the manipulation that occurs between the producer and Jack, resulting in the ultimate sacrifice of Jack ending his life. The producer says, "Ali, that was unbelievable." The quote becomes a metaphor and represents the two-faced nature of the producer himself. The dramatic irony in the quote highlights his own way of manipulating her by setting her up at his own benefit, gaining an income from her, and dividing Ali and Jack. The diegetic sound of the crowd then becomes an echo of confusion that Ali will come to have, and also of the white noise that exists constantly in Jack's head. The use of the dark lighting within the scene and at other times in the film assists the director with promoting the darkness that is an extended metaphor for the guilt Jack feels with alcoholism and other addictions as flaws that will hold Ali back. Jack already feels the guilt of his own personal failures tarnishing Ali's life, and against the producer's sale pitch, which allows his protectiveness of Ali and desire for her to find success to be darkly smothered by the producer. Throughout A Star is Born, it is evident the different ways the human mind reacts subjectively according to an external stimulation and context of an individual. In The Crucible, Miller reveals the overwhelming pressures to conform causes one's rationality to be diminished, resulting in the destruction of their morals and ultimately a society through his use of situational and dramatic irony. Miller uses Tituba and Reverend Hale to exemplify how burdens from society urge to make erroneous decisions through use of situational irony throughout the play. For example, in the beginning, Reverend Hale has a strong view that witchcraft should not be looked upon as the first thing that ails a child, yet he accuses Tituba of inflicting Betty when he says, "You most certainly do, and you will free her from it now. When did you compact with the devil?" Though Hale has a strong belief in the beginning, the constant strain from those around him lead him to lose sight of what is truly righteous. He eventually gives in to the pressures all in all. Conformity is also demonstrated in The Crucible, in that people were forced to give false admissions of the practice of witchcraft in order to preserve their lives or alternatively die to preserve their integrity. Hence the great importance of John Proctor, who ultimately died to preserve his integrity as he valued his integrity above all else. Both texts, Arthur Miller's The Crucible and Bradley Cooper's A Star is Born, provides insight into human experiences of themes including guilt, manipulation, and conformity. Both texts illuminate the human experience of an individual through the human mind that reacts subjectively according to the external stimulation and context of each of us.